Good evening, and welcome to the Boise School Board of Trustees meeting for May 12th, 2025. I'd like to remind everybody that we conduct our meetings according to our core values of respect, dignity, honesty, responsibility, and teamwork. And thank you for being here tonight. We do need to amend the agenda, so that's the our first order of business. Trustee Gregory.
President Wagers, I move to amend the agenda to remove Idaho School Boards Association legislative review, which is F1, due to a last-minute scheduling conflict by the presenter.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to remove the presentation from the Idaho School Board Association legislative review. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is amended. Now we will proceed. So let's go ahead and we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. And I think we have River Glen Junior High Choir tonight.
Ready? Begin.
And if you wait just one moment, Trustee Gregory's going to come down and chat with you a little bit.
Okay, thanks for coming. You guys are representing the River Glen Choir, which we've heard lots about, River Glen Choir and Band, cool programs. So I want to give you a chance to introduce yourselves and tell us what your favorite subject is right now. Choir, good choice. Give you the mic and pass it down.
Sebastian McVeigh, and I'm in 7th grade.
Subject. I'm Kaden. I'm in 7th grade, and my favorite subject probably like reading. My name is Ella, and I'm in 9th grade, and my favorite subject is definitely choir.
My name is Talon Brown, and I'm in 9th grade, and my favorite subject is history.
My name is Macy Smith. I'm in 7th grade, and my favorite subject is choir.
You know, you can't have two favorite subjects, 2 or 3, because there are some universities that when you go and sign up for classes, they give you a math credit for a music class. And just think about what that tells you about your choir class. It does things to your brain. It helps you compute. It kind of feeds that mathematical side of you. So you can be a scientist or a mathematician and still be a musician, which is the beautiful thing about musicianship and stuff. So I have this magic ruler to give to you. If you hold it long enough, you'll see the magic. Do you even know what a ruler is anymore? Like this is a wooden ruler. Long time ago, all rulers were wooden, and we still found them somewhere to give to you guys. So I was supposed to ask a couple of challenging questions to say, I guess I'm just curious, what are some of the activities you do as a choir? Like, where do you go? Where do you sing? You know, do you have into school concerts right now? Who wants to respond?
Next Monday we're doing a Pops concert at Capitol. What songs are? Oh yeah. We're we're doing a Just Dance, and this dance called Dance Evolution, and I would show you, but you know, yeah, definitely. And we're doing a couple songs too.
So,
One thing that we've done is we've gone to the rotunda and we've sang there. It was a lot of fun, and We got to sing with a few different elementary schools.
So have you guys done a junior high clinic this year with a lot of junior high choirs, stuff like that? That's kind of fun when you get together, and that'll probably happen as you hit the high school years. What do you think? You think you've done it a little bit? Uh-huh. Yeah. For elementary schools? Yeah. It's always fun to kind of get together, and then it just grows and bigger, and pretty soon you're going to state activities like that. So we're glad that you came down to the southern end of the district, because you guys are the ones up there in River Glen. You get the beautiful trees and the beautiful mountains outside your school. It's a lovely place to be. So thanks so much. I'm sorry I didn't ask you more hard questions. You'll be all right, right? Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much for coming, and thank your parents for bringing you.
Thanks to the River Grand Choir. Appreciate you coming tonight, and families who brought them, and administrators and teachers. Next, we'll move on to the Red and Gold Apple Award presentations. And we're going to go ahead and start with the Red Apple Award. I'm going to go ahead and read that myself. Since 1974, Boise School District has recognized outstanding professional educators with the Red Apple Award, the highest award presented monthly during the school year to certified staff members by the Boise School Board. The Red Apple Award honors teachers who consistently perform above and beyond the call of duty in fulfilling their responsibilities and supporting the district's mission of educating today for a better tomorrow. Allie Ward exemplifies this standard of excellence through her visionary leadership, tireless advocacy, and deep commitment to both education and sustainability. As the district's sustainability supervisor and a former Boise High science teacher, Allie has inspired a district-wide culture shift that empowers student voice, supports staff innovation, and integrates sustainability into daily learning. Through her leadership, green teams have launched in every Boise School District school, giving students meaningful opportunities to lead sustainability efforts on campuses. Allie's approachable style, collaborative mindset, and can-do attitude make her a trusted teammate to educators and support staff alike. She has worked side by side with facilities and operations personnel to align building practices with environmental goals, demonstrating respect, communication, and teamwork every step of the way. Allie's work is grounded in education. She creates enrichment opportunities, supports curriculum development, and fosters student-centered projects like outdoor classrooms and school gardens. Her efforts have elevated the Boise School District's sustainability profile on a national scale, building valuable partnerships and earning her the 2025 Woman in Smart Energy WISE Award as a rising star in the field. From coordinating the development of the district's first sustainability action plan to bringing people together around shared goals, Allie leads with intention, humility, and heart. Her dedication to exclusivity and community building shines through, whether uniting neighbors to build a teaching farm, guiding students to become environmental stewards, or simply offering support to a colleague. Allie Ward is more than a leader. She is an educator, a connector, and a change maker whose work will have a lasting impact on our students, schools, and community. It is our distinct honor to present the Red Apple Award for May 12, 2025 to Allie Ward, Sustainability Supervisor, Boise School District, in recognition of her outstanding service to education and her dedication to educating today for a better tomorrow.
All right.
But we'll
Now.
give you the mic.
Okay, watch out.
I know. I know. Allie is really great, but she educates me every month on sustainability, it seems like, and I finally got some of it, which is great.
That's good. Well, I just want to
to say this is a huge honor, and I'm really grateful and happy. I'm so proud to work in our system where we really do prioritize all students and where we put their needs first, where we grow our own teachers. It's just so fun to have so many people who've come through our system who are now teaching in our system. And we also really invest in teacher leadership. We believe in teachers and we believe in their leadership potential. And I think that's amazing. I think public schools, I really do believe, are the incubators of democracy. And it's where we learn to view things from multiple sides. It's where we learn kindness and patience. And I just think it's where we learn to respect others. And I'm so proud to work in this district and in public education. It's brave work and it's not easy and it's not simple. So thank you to my colleagues. I've got some great colleagues who are here tonight, and I've had so many wonderful colleagues over the years who I learn from every day. And to my former students who are just out doing amazing things. Like, it's just so fun to get to share the world with all these people. We have a profound impact on each other, and so I'd just like to say thank you for trusting me to everybody. Thank you. Thank you to my mentors in this room. I've just learned so much in the last few years up in this space, and I'm just extremely grateful. To my family, thank you. To Travis, who has listened to at least 1 million, maybe 2 million stories about school. I mean, just let's take a road trip and I'll talk the whole time. So thank you, Travis, for just being my confidant and always cheering me on. And to our kids, thanks for being by my side. I'm honored and extremely grateful. And this is a brave system in Boise schools. So thank you all.
I have a picture of Jen. I want a picture. Good job. And next we'll have the Gold Apple Award.
Thank you, President Wagers. Since 1994, the Boise School District has recognized outstanding classified staff members in the district with the Golden Apple Award. This is the highest award presented monthly during the school year by the Boise School District Board of Trustees to classified staff members. The Golden Apple Award honors support staff members who consistently perform and above and beyond the call of duty in fulfilling their job responsibilities and supporting the district's mission of educating today for a better tomorrow. Heather Craig is the heart of Liberty Elementary School. She is the first smiling face to welcome students, families, and staff, the calm, reassuring voice on the phone, and the steady, dependable presence behind the scenes, ensuring everything runs seamlessly. Heather is the glue that holds the school together, and her contributions are felt in every corner of the building. Whether she is managing logistics, organizing supplies, solving unexpected challenges, or supporting students and staff in 1,000 small but meaningful ways, Heather brings a patience, warmth, and professionalism to every task. She has an uncanny ability to stay calm under pressure, anticipate needs before they arise, and step in to help without ever seeking recognition. Her quiet leadership, deep knowledge of the school's inner workings, and an unwavering dedication has earned her the admiration and gratitude of the entire Liberty Elementary community. Staff members regularly turn to her for support and guidance, knowing they can always count on her to follow through with care and efficiency. Heather doesn't just complete tasks, she builds community, eases burdens, and makes every day brighter for those around her. Today, we are proud to honor the incredible impact that she has on her school. It is our great honor to present the Golden Apple Award for May 12th, 2025 to Heather Craig, Administrative Assistant, Liberty Elementary School in recognition of her outstanding service to education and her commitment to educating today for a better tomorrow. Heather. Here's your award. Thank you. And these words, I think, wow, I was holding it together. You obviously have a place in everybody's heart at Liberty, and that's wonderful. And when I think of this school, I think of the families that you impact. Thanks so much for all your work. So it's yours for a little while.
It'll be a very little while, very small, short time. First of all, I want to give a big thanks to Ms. Gersak. Thank you, Nancy, for this. Really appreciate it. The staff at Liberty is amazing. I do what I do because they help me. I wouldn't do it without them. I consider myself school support. And as that, I want to make their jobs of teaching that much better. So my job, again, is to support them, and I couldn't do it without them. Also want to thank my lovely daughters who are here supporting me. And thank you, everybody.
Well, once again, congratulations to Allie and Heather. You're part of what makes the Boise School District great, and you make a big difference in our community. So thank you both for your service. If you came here for the awards and your family's there and you want to leave, it's a great time to go. It's also a great time to stay and see the rest of the board meeting. And next on the agenda, I think we get to hear from Timberline.
Just have to adjust the mic. Good evening, President Wager, Superintendent Roberts, Board of Trustees. My name's Anna, and this is Amia, and we're here giving you our May presentation. So when we presented back in February, our focus was on collaboration, and for this presentation, we wanted to focus on culture, the values, traditions, and connections that define who we are as a school community. We're highlighting the spirit of Timberline by showcasing the relationships that unite our students, staff, families, feeder schools, and local partners. From traditions to new initiatives, our culture is built through meaningful interactions that foster pride, belonging, and a sense of identity. We wanted to start off with some celebrations and recognize some of our amazing students and staff at Timberline.
Senior Mabry Edwards was selected to present and publish her original research at the 2025 American Academy of Underwater Sciences National Symposium. Her research began in her AP Capstone research class, where she discovered that female divers experience a greater increase in respiration rates than males, a finding that deepens the understanding of human physiology in scuba diving. Mabry's achievements reflects Timberline's culture of academic excellence, curiosity, and student empowerment. Her journey from a classroom research project to a national scientific symposium illustrates how Timberline's AP Capstone program fosters inquiry with real-world application and celebrates student-led exploration across diverse fields.
Our next senior spotlight is Senior Mosmir Bacha. He was the 2025 recipient for the Marilyn Schuler Human Rights Award for exemplifying the values of equity, inclusion, and civic engagement through his leadership and compassion. A passionate advocate for human rights, he has led initiatives supporting mental health, intergenerational connection, and cultural education. Moz also represented Idaho at a prestigious public service program in Washington, D.C. Respected for his humility, kindness, and commitment to community, Moz truly embodies the spirit of Marilyn Schuler's legacy and what it means to be a human rights advocate. His recognition reflects Timberline's school culture of inclusion, civic engagement, and compassionate leadership. Through school programs like Fortify, Wolf Connection, and student-led clubs, students like Moz are encouraged to lead with integrity, advocate for others, and use their unique backgrounds to build bridges.
Timberline earned top honors in statewide FAFSA challenge. We were named the winner in the extra large school division of the Idaho State Board of Education's FAFSA completion challenge. The recognition honors Timberline's outstanding efforts to support students in completing the free application for federal student aid and fostering a strong college-going culture on campus. Ms. Kimball, our college and career counselor, played a key role in increasing FAFSA completion through her leadership and dedication. By working closely with staff, students, and families, she implemented outreach strategies that increased participation and empowered students to take confident steps towards their post-secondary goals. Her efforts reflect Timberline's strong culture of opportunity. Thank you, Ms. Kimball.
Our next spotlight is Vicki Baker. She's one of the 6 outstanding Idaho educators honored as Idaho's 2025 finalist for the National Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching, the nation's highest honor for the K-12 STEM educators. Ms. Baker is celebrated for her innovative approach to teaching mathematics and her unwavering commitment to student growth and success. Ms. Baker uses building thinking classroom strategies to create engaging lessons and encourage math conversations to help students problem solve, build confidence, think critically, and discover the relevance of math in their everyday lives. She provides a meaningful environment where curiosity thrives and learning is both rigorous and meaningful. Congratulations, Ms. Baker, on this well-deserved recognition.
Michelle Loftus was named Idaho HOSA Advisor of the Year for her outstanding leadership in health science education and student mentorship. She has guided Timberline's HOSA chapter to success at both state and national levels, fostering student growth through competitions and real-world healthcare experiences. The award recognizes her exceptional leading, teaching, and ability to engage and inspire others. Congratulations, Ms. Loftus, on your well-deserved honor, and thank you for your impact on healthcare education at Timberline High School.
Speaking of HOSA, in March, Timberline competed at the Idaho HOSA State Leadership Conference in Pocatello and had outstanding results. This year's competition was one of the largest in history, with 1,100 students competing in 68 different events. Timberline had 13 first-place finishers and overall 22 automatic qualifiers for the International Leadership Conference in June in Nashville. It's amazing to see Timberline students involved in competitive, career-focused organizations. This accomplishment demonstrates our school's culture of excellence, leadership, and ambition.
Timberline boys varsity basketball had an incredible season, earning 3rd place at the state tournament and proudly bringing home multiple honors that reflect their excellence on and off the court. The team was awarded the Academic State Championship, recognizing their outstanding performance in the classroom, and our student and parent sections were celebrated with the Sportsmanship Award, showcasing the class, pride, and spirit of the entire Timberline community. This achievement reflects Timberline's school culture of excellence, integrity, and community spirit. Our success on the court, in the classroom, and in the stands shows that Timberline values well-rounded achievement. Character, academics, and sportsmanship are just as important as athletic performance. Congrats to our athletes, coaches, and fans for an inspiring season.
Timberline High School's award-winning Wind Symphony, directed by Jose Rodriguez, took the national stage in March at the 2025 Music for All National Concert Band Festival in Indianapolis. The festival celebrated the best high school music programs across the country. Timberline was invited as one of the 23 bands nationwide invited to perform, the only school selected west of Texas for this event. The talented musicians showcased their dedication, artistry, and excellence. It was a proud moment for Timberline as it highlighted the exceptional strength of the Boise School District's music education program. Timberline has a school culture where every student is encouraged to take advantages of opportunities and grow their potential.
Timberline's mock trial team had a standout year, showcasing their talent in legal reasoning, journalism, and courtroom artistry. Mock trial is an extracurricular activity coached by Maura Goddard that consists of simulated court trial where participants role play as attorneys, witnesses, and other legal professionals to practice the legal process. Participants research legal issues, prepare arguments, examine witnesses, and present evidence in front of a judge or a panel of judges. At the Idaho State Mock Trial Competition in March, the team, made up of 9 competitors, 2 courtroom journalists, and 1 artist, earned 5th place overall in a highly competitive field. Senior Nora Lafferty took 1st place in courtroom journalism at state, earning a spot at Nationals in Phoenix, Arizona, where she went to 3rd in the nation. This achievement reflects Timberline's culture of critical thinking, communication, and excellence in civic education.
Timberline High School's DECA chapter had an outstanding year at the 2025 state conference, earning multiple top honors that reflect the school's spirit of leadership, initiative, and business excellence. Timberline was named Chapter of the Year, recognized as a distinguished chapter, and received a national award for completing 2 chapter campaigns. Additionally, Timberline earned the Chapter Gold 3x3 award at the state level. A special congratulations goes out to Atharva Tripathi, who was elected as an Idaho DECA state officer, serving as Vice President of Career Development, demonstrating Timberline's commitment to prepare future leaders. Timberline took 14th to Nationals in Orlando to finish out the season. Nice job, DECA.
Timberline's annual art night was a celebration of student creativity. The cafeteria transformed into exhibits and galleries, showcasing the diverse talents and hard work of Timberline's visual artists. This event reflects Timberline's creative expression, individuality, and community pride, where students are encouraged to explore their passions and share their perspectives through art. Art Night highlighted the strength and creativity of our arts program at Timberline, where there is an inclusive space where every voice and vision is valued. Earlier this year, we shared that our ceramic students created monsters based on drawings from students at our feeder schools. These drawings were displayed in the art hallway during Art Night for students to be able to showcase their work, and they will receive their drawings to take home this month.
Our student council recently participated in our district's Student Leadership Summit, which was hosted by Bora. The keynote speakers encouraged us to lead with authenticity, stressing that the most successful leaders are those who remain true to their values and establish an environment of trust and respect. These messages inspired us all to reflect on how we can incorporate these leadership qualities into our roles. During the conference, we attended student-led presentations that sparked new ideas for the upcoming year. We shared insights on successful activities, discussed challenges related to student participation and engagement, and highlighted our most successful fundraiser. The conference provided a valuable opportunity for us to collaborate, learn from one another, and gain fresh perspectives to bring back to our school's leadership initiatives.
Last year, we were inspired by Capital Student Council's great example of kindness and positivity during the April SAT Day. So this year, our senior class representatives spread positivity and encouragement by handing out snacks with uplifting messages to their classmates. This thoughtful gesture helped ease nerves, boost morale, and foster a supportive school environment, and our juniors really appreciated it. We also took inspiration from Boise Student Council's homecoming clothing drive earlier this year for an affordable and sustainable clothing option. This year, Timberline sophomores hosted a dress drive to establish Timberline's first prom closet to help make prom more accessible for all students. Students donated their gently used dresses, shoes, and accessories to promote sustainability and support those in need of an affordable option for the big night. This campaign was thoughtful and reflected values of community support, ensuring that every student had the opportunity to feel confident and celebrated.
Our spring assembly was a big hit this year. This spring, we continued the tradition of bringing our school community together with an exciting and interactive spring sports assembly. The assembly highlighted our spring sports teams and also helped build momentum leading up to one of the most anticipated events of the year, prom. We took things up a notch by introducing new games like scavenger hunt musical chairs, teacher hungry hippos, relay races, and challenges, which got students moving, laughing, and cheering each other on in creative ways that kept the energy high. With the high energy, strong school spirit, and a focus on building a culture of celebration, the assembly set the perfect tone for an unforgettable spring season.
This year's prom was a night to remember. The theme was Golden Gala, marking a record turnout and showcasing what's possible when we listen to student feedback. Hosted at the Treefort Music Hall, the event combined Great Gatsby vibes with high energy, featuring a professional DJ, a 360 photo booth, and delicious crumble cookies. From the venue to the vibe, Golden Gala set a new standard for prom and showed the power of student voice in creating meaningful, inclusive experiences.
In April, Timberline proudly honored 20 seniors at the Heart of the Wolf ceremony. This special award recognizes students who have shown significant academic improvement, persistence, and a strong commitment to learning despite facing challenges. Teachers nominate students who demonstrate growth, dedication, and enthusiasm for their education, and a panel carefully selected the final recipients based on academic progress and personal resilience. As part of the ceremony, each recipient had the opportunity to invite a teacher who had made a meaningful impact on their academic journey and personally thank them during the event. The evening was a celebration of determination, connection, and the enduring spirit of Timberline, highlighting the power of perseverance and the importance of supportive relationships along the way.
The Timberline Avid Inspire Scholarship is offered to support students in the Avid program who demonstrate academic achievement, strong character, and active community involvement. This year, 2 scholarships were awarded to seniors Alani Atau and Mason Jewett. To be eligible, Avid Timberline High School seniors must submit a complete application, including an essay describing how they plan to use their college education to enhance their life and make a positive impact on the lives of others. They also explained how the Avid program has supported their journey so far and how it will continue to influence their future goals. Congrats, Alani and Mason.
This year, considering our commitment to building community and bringing our school together, we piloted a new senior celebration assembly. All students attended the ceremony where we celebrated our Spirit of the Wolves and Leader of the Pack Character Award recipients for each department and students selected for the Principal's Leadership Award and Coach's Athlete of the Year. These students embody Timberline's winning attitude, opportunities, leadership, values, excellence, and sportsmanship. We highlighted peer-voted senior superlatives as a fun send-off, which is usually reserved for seniors only on their last day of school. Between award recognition, we added fun challenges that include students and staff working together, Pictionary, trivia, and sharks and minnows. This Thursday evening, we are hosting a formal academic awards ceremony for students and their parents, honoring additional awardees such as our military honors, scholarship recipients, GPA awards, and honor cord recipients.
Here's a sneak peek of the current and upcoming service projects at our school. On Wednesday, after yearbook distribution, we will have a farewell barbecue for seniors with a professional DJ and games. On Thursday, seniors will be visiting our feeder elementary schools in their caps and gowns. Graduation will be next Monday on May 19th at 7 p.m. at Extra Mile as we send off our seniors who are looking forward to welcoming the class of 2028 to Timberline.
As the school year comes to a close, Timberline is experiencing a meaningful moment of transition. We extend our gratitude and best wishes to 2 exceptional leaders who have left a lasting impact on our community. Principal Molina will be moving up to a new leadership role at the district level, continuing to support students and educators across our district. We are deeply thankful for her vision, dedication, and the many ways she has strengthened our school culture during her time at Timberline. We also celebrate and say farewell to Assistant Principal Ellinghaus, who is retiring after his 37 years in education across multiple states. His commitment and support have impacted our lives. To both of these incredible administrators, thank you for your leadership, care, and service. Once a wolf, always a wolf. Thank you. Any questions?
Wow. Lots of great stuff. Lots of great stuff happening at Timberline. Trustee Benyon?
Not a question, just Maya and Anna, you guys did a great job, very all-encompassing presentation. I mean, I say this, I feel like I have a good sense of Timberline as a result. So thank you for that. Well done.
Thank you.
Trustee Gregory?
Thank you, President Wagers. I wrote on my paper after I started taking notes, I just quit and said, wow. That's quite a presentation in terms of, modeling your values associated with so many different areas of achievement in your school. And I really appreciate your recognizing your staff, your teachers, and the work that they do. It may be that they get an award, but and a recognition, but really their true recognition happens in the classroom when you have an environment where kids can learn and teachers can teach and good things happen. And then the other thought that came to me was, we're sending a lot of great kids out into the world, Superintendent Roberts. Incredibly talented young men and young women who are going to go out and do necessary work in our country and in the world. And you add that to the layer of values and that respect, I wrote down respect and trust, really critical in making a difference in the world. And I think that we see that attitude in your students. And I kind of see the shadow and the push from behind from your superintendent, Diana Molino, who has just kind of shepherded the whole student body along. And it was fun to see you honor her at your gala event that you had last week that we attended. It was fun. Thank you.
Anyone? Trustee Hassler?
I ran out of space actually because I was just writing down, and I cannot believe how many awards and how many top recipients and the representation that you guys have shown nationally across our country from Timberline. I just, as you went down the list, I just kept writing down all these things, and athletically that your athletes showed up with the top academic awards, and that you brought teachers, that the students brought their teacher with them when they were being recognized. I loved that connection point back to the teachers, that you helped those kids see there was a face behind what got them where they were. And that face is the teacher who dedicated everything to them, and that they had a moment to recognize them. So I love what's happening. I love that you came and shared it with us. Thank you so much for the work that's happening at Timberline and for your student body and the teachers and the leaders at Timberline. There's good things happening. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
Superintendent Roberts.
Yes, I have to echo, wow, so much to be proud of. I thoroughly enjoyed the assembly. It was so much fun. It was very different than years past. It was just a blast. So one thing I'm really proud of you for tonight is that you highlighted 2 different ideas that you got from other high schools. And we've heard that throughout the whole year, of one high school saying, I heard this from another high school. And kudos to all of you for like hearing a good idea and trying it. I just think that's great because I love the competition between our schools, but I think I'm even more proud of kind of the collaboration. So, and then it is really hard to keep up with events with this big of a school district. So the last time Timberline was here, they talked about Mamma Mia, and I made a note and I bought my tickets the next day and went. That was phenomenal. I mean, like, my daughter was supposed to go with me, but she was sick. So my husband begrudgingly went with me. And he said, I'm so glad I came. I would have never believed it could be this good if I hadn't come and to see it myself. It was amazing. So inspirational. So many great things happening at Timberline. Thank you, ladies, for being here tonight. I know this is a really busy time, and just really proud of Timberline and Principal Molino. You need to be very proud, and we're excited to work with you at the district office next year.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Appreciate you coming out today. If you want to take off, I'm sure there's a few things maybe on your schedule. Okay, next, we'll move on to consent agenda items. Are there any items that a trustee would like to pull from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I entertain a motion. Trustee Gregory.
Thank you, President Wagers. I move approval of the consent agenda items which are outlined in E1 through 5 with all attachments.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve consent agenda items 1 through 5 and closures 1 through 22. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we'll move on to reports and recommendations. Since Since we've amended the agenda to not include the Idaho School Board Association legislative review, we will move on to the elementary multi-language learner update with Jolene Lincoln.
Here we go. All right, well, good evening, President Wager, Superintendent Roberts, and trustees. My name is Jolene Lincoln. I'm the Administrator of Student Programs, and I appreciate the opportunity to share a passion of mine and an opportunity that we have starting next year and moving into the next years and welcoming home our elementary students that are multilingual learners. I'm going to walk through what that will look like. So this initiative that we are calling Welcome Home is connected to our proposed strategic plan under Goal 1. And the specific action item is talking about how a strategy of integrating our elementary multilingual learners who are currently bused to a different school to their neighborhood school. And to just give you a big picture of how many students we have total in our district, currently we are supporting 2,254 students who are working towards English language proficiency, and that is 10% of our population, and they come from 85 different countries, and they speak 95 different languages. So we are very proud of the diversity that we have in our district. So at the elementary level, currently there are just over 1,200 students that already attend their neighborhood school. And this is where we do have staffing. We have multilingual learner specialists that work with our teachers and our students. And so the majority of our elementary students do attend their neighborhood school. However, we have about 200 students that are bused out of their neighborhood to attend one of those 11 elementary schools that have a multilingual specialist. And so of those 200, those students are taking a bus to and from school. Some of them are on the bus for about an hour each way. And so while they're waiting for their bus, their students are involved in after-school activities and sports. And so this is an opportunity for us to take a look to see what can we do for these students and what opportunities can we provide by welcoming them home. And I love to tag on to what Ali said earlier about how we are a brave system, and we truly are. I'm so proud of this district. We do brave things that are not easy. They're hard things, but they're brave and they're what's right for students. And so this is an example of another opportunity to be brave. Another piece of this data is that 119 of those 200 students will go a different direction at junior high. So they're in a school where at 6th grade, their peers will go to one junior high and they're going to go to a different junior high. So, and as we all have had the experience of transitioning to junior high, we know, or we have our children, it's a tough transition as it is. So we want to try to make that as easy as possible for our students at a challenging time in their life. So why? Well, this is a perfect opportunity when we look at the core of our work, which you have been familiar with, where we're looking at our sense of belonging, welcoming, and connectedness, and our responsive culture for learning. We're at a perfect time. We're at a perfect time where our focus is on how can we respond to our learners? How can we be welcoming? And how do we connect our students with one another, with their community? And it's an amazing opportunity to help students make connections in their own community with their neighbors by attending their neighborhood school. As a mom, when I'm on a bike ride with my girls, their face lights up when they get to see their peers, and we want that for all students. And so this is a big piece of the why. And there's also some requirements that we are obligated to do that we must ensure from federal guidelines, where we must ensure that all students have equal access to all school programs and services. We also must ensure that our program teaches them English along with content knowledge, and that we are also integrating them with English-speaking peers. And we feel strongly that we can definitely ensure these legal requirements by welcoming all students to their neighborhood school. To give you an idea of what this will look like, here's a snapshot of a current and future distribution. So I know the numbers are really small, but basically the blue line is where our current students are attending school. So our current multilingual learners. And the green line shows what that would look like if they all went to their neighborhood school. So all in all, we have about 9 high impact schools where they're either going to gain a higher number or they're going to lose a high number. So all in all, I mean, 9 schools, we feel like that's not going to be a huge lift, and we've got plans on how to prepare and train those teachers. So as far as a timeline, this year we have already started conversations with administrators on what this would look like. We have also started to develop a plan for what that support will look like. Next year will be our onboarding year, our training year. So our team, Andrea May is joining us tonight. We will be meeting with each elementary school, and we're going to provide an overview of the why, of giving some tips and tricks, and also working with each team on an action plan for welcoming those students to their school. We will also begin welcoming our multilingual learners to Dallas Harris and Riverside. We're going to start with those 2 buildings as it's a small number, and we want to kind of pilot things that we're going to try. We are going to connect with those families, and then second semester next year is when we'll take a look at how many students we have and then determine adjustment for staffing for a multilingual specialist. And then from that point forward, we will welcome home all multilingual learners to their home school. As you know, we've already transitioned our junior high and our high school students there at their neighborhood school. We'll provide ongoing support and training for all schools, connect and check in with families. And then the real exciting piece that I think, again, a perfect time is to build on the work that the learning coaches have been doing in their buildings. A lot of teachers are involved in coaching cycles, and so Andrea May is specifically focused on elementary next year. So she'll be able to come alongside the learning coaches and just to continue to build capacity on the specific topic of language acquisition for students who are new to their building and maybe for teachers who have not had that opportunity. And I think we really do owe it to our community to have that opportunity, to have that diversity in their building, to get to know their neighbors. They're missing out on such an incredible opportunity. So we want to provide that for the community and for the teachers. One of the items two pieces of professional development that we review with teachers where we see the most aha light bulb moments is when we really dial in on the stages of second language acquisition. I think the initial response is, oh my gosh, they don't speak English. I don't know how to do that. Well, when we dial it in and we talk about what the students can do, what is the behavior of the student? What is it that they're able to do? And then what can the teacher do? When we name it, we can tame it. And the teachers just kind of we just see the shoulders relax a little bit. And then when we pair their language levels to content, here's an example of we call the content companion. So let's look at earth science, for example. The content learning or the learning intention would be how the earth changes over time. The success criteria is that all students have to differentiate between weathering, erosion, and deposition. Well, how does that look for all students? Then we take a look at what does that mean for a level 1, language level 1 student. So in these content companions, for a student who's brand new to the country, to match pictures with words of weathering, erosion, and deposition, that is their success criteria, and that's how a teacher grades that student based on their language level. When we go through in detail and explain this to teachers, they get the light bulb moment, and it really helps them understand that it is possible. When we talk about language levels, we talk about what students can do, and we focus it as an asset. And I think that is what helps teachers understand that they can do this. In fact, that's the name that WIDA uses, is the can-do descriptors. So as far as what each level can do. And so I just wanted to go over this piece of it with you and this is what every teacher will receive when we meet with them in their elementary staff meetings, so that they have a feel of just calm, because I think when it comes to assessing the students, our ML students, that's when we get the most kind of panic, like how do I do that? And then finally, we will provide a lot of opportunities. So Andre May's done an amazing job creating the support menu where each school will get to make the decision on how they want to move forward. If they want to just pop in during an office hour while Andre is there on site, that's an opportunity. If they want to dedicate a choice CLC or a whole group CLC on a specific topic, we do plan on scheduling learning labs, so we can have teachers who have not had the experience of multilingual learners in their classroom. They can go to another school with their grade level team and see it in action. Also, we'll support them through an ML support cycle. So similar to a coaching cycle, our ML district coach, Andrea and Tori, can come alongside and similarly through a cycle help teachers one-on-one or at a grade level. We'll also provide district professional development, book studies, and then we are purchasing this book, 50 Strategies for Supporting Multilingual Learners, for each of our teachers. So they'll be able to have something in hand that they can take out to help with their planning. And another thing I want to mention too is when we talk about what student behavior and teacher behavior looks like for different language levels, a lot of teachers will have that aha of like, well, this is what's good for all students. All students need pictures. All students need that extra opportunity to engage and talk and speak. And so what we find is there's that aha of like, this is great teaching. This is great instruction for all students. So that is, in a nutshell, our initiative of Welcome Home. And we actually are going to play the song Philip Phillips, well, Home. I don't know if you know that song or not, but that's going to be playing. That's going to be our entry music at our staff meeting. So because if you listen to those words, it's like the best song. Perfect. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Supervisor Lincoln. Any questions? Trustee Gregory?
Thank you, President Williams, Wagers. This is elementary only because we've already done this in secondary, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And thanks for the numbers, the data. It kind of helps us get a picture of the district-wide situation. And you know, part of me thinks we should have done this before. But I'm really glad that we're doing it just because of that connection at their home school. And you can't build that connection when half of your neighborhood is missing or, you know, spotty representation, and those people are off somewhere not connected. So I'm just out of curiosity, how much are we saving in busing?
That is a great question. I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but I can get it to you. I mean, it's
going to be
it's a big number. Yeah.
Right. And then a follow-up. What reporting or achievement data are we still responsible for to who on multilanguage learners?
Yeah, President Wagers, Trustee Gregory, that is a great question. Excuse me. We do have the students, are we required to give the access assessment every spring? And so we do have benchmarks that we work towards. The State Department wants, the goal really is 1 year of proficiency each year.
Okay.
However, research shows that it takes 5 to 7 years to achieve proficiency, and that is for a student who comes with literacy in their native language. So, and schooling in their native language. So for a lot of our students who are coming with limited schooling, it's anywhere from 7 to 11 years. And so we do keep track. I mean, we monitor their growth, but there are so many variables when we look at data for all students, but especially for our multilingual learners. There are many, many variables. Just this morning, we were talking about what do we measure? How do we measure it? Because like I say, if we can't really compare all of our students against each other because we've got students who are very well educated, whose families are working at Micron. We have families who come from refugee background with very limited schooling opportunities. So, and I also feel very confident in our multi-tiered systems of support and how that is the way that we're rolling in all of our buildings, that we have a structure in place for how we address all of our students. And there is a place, you know, within that MTSS where we can address the needs of our multilingual students as well.
Trustee Hassler.
So just in listening, I'm kind of wrapping my head around. So some of our schools, so 9 schools don't have multilanguage learner specialists right now. Is that right?
So we have 11 schools that have multilingual learner specialists.
But
So-
but the 9 high impact schools.
Oh.
Right. So how many of our schools will not have specialists that will have kids going into? Because you were saying we'll adjust staffing. So how many will we have at that level?
So just off, depending on how many students we have next year, we'll have, we would be adding, sorry, I have it in a different presentation, but I would say we'll have at least half-time or full in at least 20 of our schools. So it will depend on their number. So if they have 20 or more ML students, then they will have a half-time ML specialist. And so, and then if they don't have an ML specialist, then Andre May or, our district learning coaches will be putting supports in at those buildings. And I think an important piece too is when we looked at data of students at a school with an ML specialist and a school without, we saw similar growth. In fact, first graders were like 0.5% higher in their growth on scale scores on the IRI than native English speakers. And so we're seeing that the growth is happening. And so we're not concerned about those buildings that don't have an ML specialist because we're seeing the growth. Yeah.
Thank you.
Superintendent Roberts.
So I think we would all agree that the power of the Boise School District are our neighborhood schools. And every single student deserves to attend their neighborhood school. I believe strongly in that. We probably haven't done it sooner, Trustee Gregory, because I always worked in an ML school. And if I didn't, I think I would have seen what was missing, truly. When I've always worked in ML schools, and it brings an amazing amount of richness to have that diversity. And so I love the idea that all of our neighborhood schools will be able to have that diversity. It just makes us better all the way around. So I am thrilled about this. I was visiting with Principal Taylor at Riverside, and he's very excited to try this. I think it's going to be exciting. Just Dr. Taylor, I should have said.
President Wagers, Superintendent Roberts, I agree with you 100%. Thank you for the support and just supporting our district and being brave. I mean, you guys are leading this brave district, and I appreciate that.
Trustee Gregory.
I was just piggybacking on Superintendent Roberts' comment. The thought occurred to me that this will invite or create an opportunity for a deeper purpose and community engagement. And we had talked previously about how community engagement could relate to the literacy goal. And I could see some really valuable projects that we could get some community partners engaged in, and beef up our community engagement models to support this work as well. If buildings identified a niche that could be filled, that would be an opportunity. The other thing that occurred to me was, does IDLA have any resources in terms of multi-language assistance that would be meaningful for us to explore? I don't know, so.
President Wagers, Trustee Gregory, I'm not aware of any,
Okay.
but that would definitely be something we could explore. We do have about 30 students who are enrolled in our Boise Online School, that are multilingual, but I can't speak for IDLA. I'm not quite sure.
It may be a support structure that could help where we have larger numbers or something. Anyway, I was just putting that in.
Trustee Donovan.
I'm so happy to see this. I know it was so successful when the high schools transitioned and the junior highs transitioned. Students do better when they're with their peers and when they are enjoying school and not waiting in line for a bus. And the participation in all of the fun stuff that Timberline was presenting, you can't really do that when you're bused to another school. So thank you so, so much for the work that's going to go into this transition. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just have a couple. How will we know and the change is successful? I mean, is that something we can measure? Is it something? I mean, it's a tough thing, but how will we know?
I mean, I would say we can absolutely measure it. We're already measuring it. Jolene does have some pretty compelling data already about students who have stayed in their home school. The difficult thing, like she was talking about, is it really does depend whether a student comes in with some literacy skills in their home language, but we can definitely track these students. That'll be very easy for us to do and to share those results.
That would be fun to see, those changes happen. And then numbers of multi-language students, I'm assuming we're not increasing in those numbers at the point. What are our projections on those?
President Wagers, that's a great question. We have declined this year in our number of new arrivals, and we do anticipate that to continue to decline over the next 3-4 years. So yes, we anticipate a decline.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation. Next, we'll move on to budget priorities and recommendations. Deputy Superintendent Smith.
Good evening, President Wagers, Superintendent Roberts, and trustees. I'm going to apologize from the beginning because you have to deal with me for 3 different presentations tonight. Just lucky, I guess. The first presentation tonight is to visit with you a little bit about our fiscal year 2026 budget priorities and recommendations. You'll recall when you adopted our budget timeline that this is something new that we were trying this year, where we have a night where we would present to you on the recommendations from the administration. So first and foremost, the purpose of my presentation tonight is identify the guiding principles that we utilize in setting our budget, identify budget priorities for the upcoming school year, which really are sustaining what we have started, and then review factors impacting next year's budget. So the guiding principles that we utilize as an administration when we're setting our budget are really quite simple. First and foremost, student-centered, focused on student success and well-being, ensuring that the dollars are getting to the classroom. We also are focused on fiscal responsibility. We have to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, and that's something that we don't take lightly. And then another important factor for us is equity across schools and programs. We talk often about your zip code should not dictate the quality of education you get. And so whether you are in the North End or Southeast Boise or the Boise Bench, the quality of education is consistent across all of those schools. And then the guiding star is that alignment with our district strategic plan. You often talk about how the funds, the dollars are following the strategic plan. So what we set in the strategic plan dictates how we spend our money. So the first part here, talking about our priorities. When we first set out to have this conversation, we started talking about what programs maybe we would be adding this year. But as we got into the conversation and started looking at our budget and looking at what we wanted to accomplish this next year, we really talked about sustaining the existing programs and initiatives that we've been starting over the last several years. So what I've highlighted for you in this presentation tonight are some of the many programs that we have started over the last 5 years. And our focus is really going to be on sustaining and enhancing those programs. So when you look at it from a program perspective, as you can see, in the past 5 years, we've expanded to full-day kindergarten in all schools. One of our goals with this budget is to continue that, right? To continue to support that full-day kindergarten that we've instituted as a district. We've also increased in the number of community schools district-wide over the last 5 years. And we have growth in special education programs and staffing to meet the rising needs of our students, as was presented by Administrator Longoria at one of our recent workshops. We have also enhanced mental health training and resources for both students and staff. You've had presentations this past year on CRIM. You've heard about Hope Squad. You've heard about Signs of Suicide, which was funded by the Downtown Rotary this past year. You've heard about some of those great programs, and our goal is to continue to sustain and support those. You've heard about AVID through the years, obviously, and you've heard about recent expansions of AVID into some of our additional elementary schools. You have learned, and we have talked a lot about the opening of our new pre-K centers at Lincoln Early Learning Center and next year at Owyhee Early Learning Center. We've talked to you a lot through the last several years about expanding career and technical education opportunities in response to demand in the community. So you've seen things like cybersecurity, medical assistant, and fire programs added. And then on the staff side, staff training, you've seen and we've talked a lot about the different or the significant investment that we've made in professional development focused on student-centered instruction. So we've talked a lot about, and many of you have had an opportunity to participate and or attend some of the clarity trainings that we've had over the last few years. When we look at staffing, that's another area where we have made substantial investments and that we're going to continue to work to support and sustain. But we've added social workers and counselors to expand mental health support and services to our students. We've introduced behavior support specialists in every one of our elementary schools to address behavioral needs. We've hired full-time music and PE teachers at all elementary schools to allow for our teachers to have collaboration time with their peers. We've added a learning coach at each building to support staff development. We've increased substitute pay to improve fill rates, and we have some data that shows that that is helping, especially as it pertains to our special education paraprofessional substitute positions. And we've raised the minimum wage for classified employees. You'll remember a few years back, we raised it to $15 an hour, which was a monumental shift. And something that no other school district was doing. That has slowly worked its way up, and we're now over $16 an hour in our classified positions. From an operational perspective, you can see that we've implemented one-to-one student devices to ensure equity of access to technology coming out of the pandemic. Originally, that was funded through federal funds, ESSER funds, and that's something that we have sustained as a district and continue to sustain. We've adopted a free breakfast program for all students. We're currently in partnership with Boise State University to measure the impact of that. So stay tuned on the findings of that research. We've invested in athletic facilities to ensure equity and Title IX compliance over the last several years, and we've made upgrades to enhance physical safety, security, and ADA accessibility across all schools. That's a list. It's a big list. It's a lot of accomplishments in the past several years. But it comes with a price tag, right? And that's something that you've invested in as a board, we've invested in as a district, and our goal moving forward into this next year is to continue those improvements, those programs, and sustain those programs. So to identify and talk about some of the factors that are impacting next year's budget. Some of these you've probably seen in the news. Some of them you can just imagine based on your own households. So some of the things that are impacting our budget this next year are increased costs of insurance. Our property and liability insurance has gone up substantially. I've got a slide that I'll show you that outlines that. We've also seen rising cost in medical insurance, which I'm sure you have all felt as well. The news has reported on minimum salaries required under Idaho's career ladder law. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. We also have in our district declining enrollment, and that's something that we've talked to you about in the past as well. We also have a growth in the number of special education students, and we have increased staffing needs. So to kind of look at each one of those categories individually, you can see from this slide that our increase in property and liability insurance over the past five years have been significant. More than doubled in that amount of time. If we were to actually trace this back even further, it's even more staggering. I remember when I took over HR and was in charge of the property and liability and budget, at one time we were paying $300 and some thousand. So it's gone up substantially in a very short amount of time. If we look at medical insurance, we're seeing the same kind of impact. We've had a 24.3% increase over the past 2 years in medical insurance, which is significant. And that's something that is impacting families across the country, across the state. The cost of medical insurance continues to rise. Much of that is tied to a lot of prescription medications and the cost of special pharmacy drugs that people have access to that are very expensive. The changes in the career ladder minimums, this is something that we've talked briefly about with you when we were in our first budget workshop. But this past legislative session, the legislature did approve a 5% CEC, which is a change to employee compensation for our employees. That 5% was placed on top of the increase last year, which was $6,359 per support unit. And why that's important is because last year when those funds were handed out, they were basically handed out more like stipends to school districts to utilize for salary. They were not put on the career ladder minimums. So the career ladder is a funding mechanism set by the state. Dollars flow to districts, then dollars use those funds in their salary schedule. The $6,359 last year flowed to the district, but it was not part of the minimum salary requirements required by state law. This year, they have said that we're going to provide 5% increase to the career ladder, and that's on top of that $6,359, which wasn't a minimum last year. As a result of that, this year we are looking at approximately a 3.5% increase to our salaries just to hit those new minimums set by the state. So when we talk about things that are impacting and putting pressure on the budget, that is one of those impacts that we talk about. We also had, we've also talked with you in the past about declining enrollment. That's not a mystery. We've seen a substantial decline in enrollment over the past several years. This chart gives you an overview of what we have seen year over year, starting back in 2014. You can see that the elementary has started to catch up and has actually surpassed with the secondary, which matches what we've talked with you in the past, where we've seen declining enrollment in the past at the elementary. It has now hit the high schools and junior highs, where we are seeing the more significant decline in enrollment at this point. This slide is one that you've seen before. Again, this slide is just simply to show you, as we have experienced declining enrollment district-wide, we have seen an increase in the number of students enrolling in our special education program. So students who are qualifying for special education services, that number has continued to increase while we have seen declining enrollment. And so that, again, puts pressure on us from a staffing perspective and a financial perspective, because special education students do cost more to educate. That is a fact. There was a bill in the legislature this year that would have established an emergency fund for school districts to access when they have a student who comes into the district that has significant needs. That bill did not pass the legislature, so those funds are not available. There's also been conversations in the past about establishing a funding system in the state of Idaho that is a weighted system where districts would get additional funding to help support the needs of special education students. We have not seen that pass the legislature at this time. So again, this is something that puts a lot of pressure on school districts across the state. Another significant aspect when we talk about our budget as a school district that has to be discussed is the fact that we employ significantly more staff than what the state actually funds us for and allocates. So this slide is something that you have also seen in the past and that CFO Kessel has shared with you as part of budget presentations in the past. But as you can see, instructional staff, so these are classroom teachers, the state funds us for approximately 1,054. We actually employ 1,453, so that's 37.75% over what the state allocates. Pupil personnel, so these are counselors, social workers, psychologists, nurses, occupational therapists, physical therapists, SLPs, audiologists, those type of professionals. You can see that the state allowance for that is only 81.63. We employ 197.03. That's 115 additional individuals that we employ in those categories. From an administrative perspective, you can see the state funds us for 77.49. Our actual count is 99.85, so we're 22.36 over there. And then on the classified side of things, the state only funds us approximately 387.47. The actual count of what we employ is 733, so we're over by 346. So you can see that we employ a substantial number more staff than what the state is actually allocating and what they are paying for, which all of that comes out of your general fund, that comes out of your charter and local levies to make that happen. Some other potential budget pressures that I wanted to bring to your attention this year. I think something that's been reported fairly widely in the news is that there was no increase to discretionary funding from the state. We did receive an increase in our insurance funding, but not in our discretionary, which the discretionary is the funding that we utilize to pay the power bill, to pay all the different utilities, the overage that we have in staffing. Those types of things come out of that discretionary pot of money, which did not receive an increase this year. We also, as we have discussed in past presentations and past board meetings, we did have a cap on our facilities maintenance funding for the Boise School District, and there was also a shift away from the lottery money that could be utilized for maintenance to the new way that they're allocating funding that has to be used for facility projects, major projects, and can't be used for maintenance type projects. There's obviously a lot of uncertainty around federal funding right now, and that conversation has taken place in the media. We've seen that in the news. We've had conversations here around that. We've been told from the State Department of Education to go ahead and staff in anticipation of receiving those funds, but that was only after they told us to staff with caution. So there's a lot of uncertainty around that. And then certainly uncertainty around future economic factors as we look at inflation and the potential of recession and things of that nature. And with that, these are our next steps for our budget development schedule. May 22nd at a board workshop will be your second budget session and approval of budget for advertising. And then June 9th will be a regular board meeting, and that is your final budget public hearing and final approval of the budget for the 25-26 school year. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Deputy Director Smith? Trustee Gregory?
Thank you, President Wagers. I need a little bit more explanation on the 6,500.
Career ladder.
Yes, that was not on the career ladder, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what
Yep.
does that mean in terms of a loss? Did the 6,500 somehow get in the pot and move forward, or was it a one-time money?
President Wagers and Trustee Gregory. So kind of the backstory on that is that last year, the legislature chose to add that 6359 to the career ladder through intent language in the public school budget and not a revision to the statute that is the career ladder. And so the 6359 was added to the allocation and money that was sent out to districts, but it wasn't actually put on the career ladder in the career ladder as a minimum. So there is legislation, there is state law that says, here's the career ladder, here are the minimums you have to pay. They didn't revise that statute last year. They simply sent out an additional $6,359 per funded unit, but they did not revise the minimums in state law. So that money went out to districts and was utilized for salaries, but it didn't impact the minimum. This year, they've come back and said, we're giving you a 5% increase, and that 5% is going to be on top of the 6,359. So that, in essence, increased the minimums by not only the 5%, but the 6,359. So what school districts have seen is a huge jump in the minimum salary that they have to pay their employees this coming school year. For the Boise School District, that wasn't significant because we typically pay more than what the state allocates. We pay more than the neighboring districts. But for some districts, that increase is going to be substantial. And very difficult to meet. For us, the challenge comes in the form of we employ, as I showed you up there, we employ so many additional staff above and beyond what the state allocates that's why it kind of compounds the issue for us. it really is, as I articulated earlier, it really is just about a 3.5% increase to get us to that new minimum on our salary schedule. But that's across all of those folks that are unfunded by the state as well.
So very
Yep.
few, you mind? Very few districts employ what the state actually funds them for. They employ more than that. So we took the money that we received for that and we use that to fund the salary schedule that we have adopted. And our salary schedule is truly based on experience and education. So, you know, we give a bachelor's plus 15, a bachelor's plus 30, a master's. The career ladder does not take into effect credits earned like that. So most likely we're going to have to move away from what we've traditionally been able to do because we have employees that have worked really hard to get a master's plus 30. The career ladder doesn't really benefit that. So we're going to have to decide how we are going to continue to live within our values and what we think is important for our staff, but still be able to afford what the state's going to fund us for.
And President Wagers and Trustee Gregory, to tag on to what Superintendent Roberts just shared, what you're going to see come out of the negotiations team is that they are going to be looking at the adoption of a new salary schedule if the negotiated agreement is approved this year, that will honor what Superintendent Roberts talked about. How do we honor our commitment to lifelong learning, and how do we continue to honor and recognize staff who are getting those master's degrees, getting those doctorates and ed specialists, but yet bring us closer in alignment with the career ladder so that we don't find ourselves so out of whack. So we'll have more conversation about that when the negotiated agreement is presented to you towards the end of the month. But you can look for that to be something that we'll be highlighting at that time.
Trustee Gregory?
Any clue well, maybe just for our district, I'm wondering how much the state allocation would be if it fully funded kindergarten?
Oh.
Like what
Yeah.
our cost, and so how much
Yeah.
more would we get in our budget if they fully funded kindergarten?
President Wagers and Trustee Gregory, we could probably get you that very easily because they only fund half-day kindergarten. So we could grab that probably quite easily and get that out to you. Yeah, we could get that for you. I could probably get it off my computer, but I don't have my
Right, but you're not there,
computer.
yeah. And so I'm thinking that should be on our legislative ISBA resolution list to
Great
petition the state to fully fund kindergarten, because everyone is funding full-day kindergarten. Across the Treasure Valley we are, aren't we?
Yeah. President Wagers and Trustee Gregory, I believe many districts, including ours, are utilizing some of the literacy funds for that purpose. But by utilizing the literacy funds for that purpose, you're not able to use those literacy funds for intervention.
Literacy.
And yeah, so that's something we can get that information for you. We could probably have that ready for you at our next budget hearing and share it with you at that time.
Trustee Hassler?
So how does the state come up with their funding formula? Like how many teachers and how often is that actually revisited and the research done on that? So, and who is responsible for that research?
President Wagers and Trustee Hassler, I've been told that I have a limit on the amount of time I have tonight. And so I don't know. I don't know if I am qualified to answer that question because that is a tough one. And it'll take a while, but the state funding formula was revised, I want to say in the 90s, the last time that it was truly, yeah, Nancy's got her fingers back there showing us. 1995, I was in high school, and so were you. And, and it was a battle. And they came up with a funding mechanism at that time that ensured nobody lost any funds. And it's been broken ever since. Long story short, there have been attempts to modernize the funding formula to make it a student-based funding mechanism that has got weights and measures and that shifts based on if the student is a special education student or an ML student or a student who lives in poverty. So there have been attempts, and none of those have ever passed through the legislature. But the current one is convoluted. It is difficult. There are a handful of people across the state that understand it well. And the rest of us just kind of try to keep up with those folks. And I don't really, as far as how they have determined how much we get, basically, it's not based off of attendance, as you know. It's based off, so there's enrollment funding.
It is on attendance.
Yeah, it's based off attendance. There's enrollment funding, which we were funded on for a short period of time during the pandemic. But after the pandemic, they shifted back to attendance-based funding, and that attendance basically drives how much money we get and how much money we get for staff and salaries, the staff allocation. That's a simplified version of it, and it's antiquated and broken.
That was a really big question.
Wasn't ready for that one.
And you could probably get about a master's or a PhD really talking about that.
Well, I just want to know who has that master's or PhD to go talk to. That's what I guess I'm asking. Who's
You look at
responsible?
JFAC and you look at Senate Ed, House Ed, or wherever they want to send it through. So those are the folks.
President Wagers and Trustee Hassler, we're fortunate. Sheila has a strong grasp of how this works, so we're quite lucky to have her as part of our team.
Trustee Gregory.
Well, just for comment, President Wagers, I was on the interim committee that met during the summer in preparation for this legislative session that looked at the funding formula, and even those in the legislature who you would think have a grasp of it didn't have a grasp of it, because they would say, well, what about this? And the state finance officer would say, we already do that. It's already a practice of ours. We take care of this. Let me tell you how this works. And so I think that the thing that I keep coming back to, having been through several iterations of trying to talk about revising the formula, is that there's a difference between counting heads and seats and giving you so much money for every head in the seat, as opposed to a system. This is not an individual situation. It's a systemic situation, because every child in every seat doesn't just get supported by one teacher. They get supported by a system of support that you've talked about tonight. And that system of support is important for the work that goes on in every classroom. And you can't just say it's just the child in the seat. What about F&O? What about finance? What about, for facilities? What about safety? It just goes on and on. So it is a system. And I would just say that it's also a point of view, like a personal perspective held by the people who are making those decisions. If their decision-making is in support of public education, in support of what's happening, or if their intent is to keep the funding as bare minimum as possible, then you have intent.
Yeah, President Wagers and Trustee Gregory and Trustee Hassler, this kind of goes to your questions as well. But I think really one of the most significant issues that we have with the funding formula as it sits right now is that it is based on attendance and not on enrollment. There are inherent costs to staffing a school, equipping a school for every student that enrolls in your school, regardless of how often they show up. And I think that's one of the greatest challenges. We have to staff for every student that enrolls. We don't get to send the teacher home on a day that a handful of the kids don't show up. But that's the way the system's built, is that you're only getting funded for those days. From a legislative perspective, they may look through the lens of, well, if we fund you based on attendance, then your staff will do a better job of making sure kids show up to school. But at the end of the day, that is the role of the parent, and that is not the role of the school district, although we try very hard to encourage kids to come every single day. If you walk around our schools, you will see bulletin boards where people are having Olympic themed events where classes are competing on attendance, and they're incentivizing kids to show up. And staff are working really hard to get kids to show up to school every day. And in a system where you're funding it based on whether a kid shows up, you're always going to have this gap between what is and what we're being funded.
And I might add, they work really hard to get kids there every day because it's what's best for the student. Never once do our schools think it's for a funding reason. We know it helps our funding, and our schools work diligently because we know it's what's best for kids. It just really is too bad that this has been the position we've been put in. We've heard from legislators that they believe that we enroll like ghost students. I don't even know how we would do that. It's not even something I could figure out how to do. So it just really is unfortunate. I feel really badly for some of our smaller districts. They're really struggling with this.
Trustee Hassler.
So my follow-up, because that was a really good, thank you. You answered a big question with a great explanation, so thank you for that. My follow-up question would just be for Sheila. I would love to know the difference of what are we getting based on enrollment and attendance? So what has that shift been for our district, and what does that mean for our students in our classrooms? If not tonight, at some point.
And I know ISBA, when you go to the ISBA conference, the state does a nice job of, you can sit through an hour-long deal from Julie Oberle, and she will go through, the whole state funding formula. And if you wanted to, she's in Boise, you could probably call her up and say, hey, I need a full explanation. She's happy to provide that.
She's one of those experts.
Yep, she's one of those experts. She doesn't set policy, but she understands the formula. So we've been getting a few emails from some folks about class sizes, and mostly in small neighborhood schools where we have declining enrollment. And it's a struggle. I know. I thank you to our area directors for kind of trying to thread the needle at the moment, especially when we don't know what those numbers are yet at those schools, and they continue to change and evolve. And yet parents want to know why, and why don't we provide the budget to do those type of things? So you could just talk a little about that decision process that goes to the budgeting as well as those schools.
Yeah, President Wagers and trustees, I appreciate that question. I think, Will, is it possible to go back into my presentation and go to that slide that shows the differential between what the state funds and what we employ? Thank you. So I think it's really important to start from this perspective. We already employ a substantial number of staff over what the state allocates. If we weren't doing that, I'd hate to imagine what our class sizes would be. One of the things that Superintendent Roberts just highlighted just a few minutes ago was our neighborhood schools. That's a value of ours. That's something that we value, we appreciate. It's part of the fabric of Boise. It's why people move here. They love the concept of having a neighborhood school that has walkability, that they can walk their kid to school in the morning. The kid can ride the bike. They can go down to the playground and play whenever they want on a weekend. That's something we value and appreciate, but it comes with a cost. And the cost is that because we have small neighborhood schools that are considerably smaller than neighboring districts, there are some challenges when you're trying to staff those schools. And part of that is that because we don't stick kids on buses and drive them halfway across the community to have an elementary of 600, 700 students, you end up in situations where you have a little bit larger class sizes, or you have to establish a combo class to keep from having to bus those kids elsewhere. And so that's something that the combo is something that we've utilized in this district for as long as any of us know. Superintendent Roberts started in the district as a combo teacher, I believe, for 5 years. So it's been something that we've utilized for a long time to maintain our neighborhood schools. We certainly appreciate the concerns and the issues that have been shared by the parents. And in response, we did a little homework. We looked into what it would cost to do away with combos. What would it cost us as a district if we were to move away from combos? We've also done a little research on what it would cost to reduce class sizes, as outlined by the parents in many of the emails you've received. If we were to remove combos altogether in the district this year, And mind you, this is a moving target because we have a different number of combos every year. And actually this year is one of the least number of combos I think we've had since I've been paying attention and been up here. And it would cost us approximately 3.9 million to eliminate all combo classes in the district just this year. When we talk about reducing class sizes to some of the numbers that have been shared with you in your emails, that's going to cost us approximately 7.3 million to do that, to get to that level. And I think the important thing is to understand, if you go back to one of my earlier slides, I talked about how your zip code doesn't determine the quality of education. What we do at one school, we need to do for all schools, right? So it isn't something that we can just eliminate combos and reduce class sizes at one school because the parents are asking for that. If we're going to do that, we're going to do it for all students and for all schools and for all parents, and that comes with a cost.
Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it. Any other questions from trustees this time? Thank you. I like this priority piece because it helps us kind of look at the budget a different way. Yeah. So I appreciate you guys putting that together. Anything else? Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Benyon.
Thanks, President Wagers. Do we have any data on like the educational success of our students in combo classes versus not in combo class?
President Wagers, I don't have that specifically, but we could probably, through our data system, look at trying to pull some of that together. We've got testimonials and people have reported that they've had great success with that. If you talk to parents who have had kids in combos, some of them say it was an amazing experience, you know, and so I think we could look at trying to pull some data together, but I don't have that at this time.
Yeah, if there was some achievement data or something, maybe we could.
Superintendent Roberts.
Trustee Benyon, we could definitely look at achievement data. That would be really easy for us to pull even from this year. I guess, though, what worries me a little bit in that is that even though I wish that our most experienced teachers would teach the combo classes, I think it's kind of seen as I have seniority, so I don't have to teach the combo. And some of our less experienced teachers wind up teaching the combo. Sometimes our first year teachers, I can attest to that. And so I think that even a different amount of experience might affect those outcomes, but we could definitely look at that and factor that in. And then we would know too, was this a veteran that chose to do it? You know, our combo classrooms wind up having 5 less students than the lowest grade level of the combo. So sometimes teachers really enjoy teaching that because they do have a few less students. It also, our combo classes have an amazing family feel. It's kind of fun sometimes to watch a teacher move through the combos because they wind up having half their class each year. So I understand that there is a lot of trepidation on the part of parents and sometimes teachers, but then we wind up having teachers that really enjoy it and parents who had amazing experiences with it. But we could definitely pull some data this year and show you, you know, like a 3-4 combo versus what happened in the 3rd grade versus what happened in the 4th grade. A lot of times, though, we also try to put our more independent learners in that combo class because of the 2 grade levels. So that also could have a factor on that data, but we can pull the data and take a look at it.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, combo classes 4 less students?
5.
5 less, 5 less. So, okay. I don't know. I had 3 kids go through combo classes the whole time they were in elementary school, and they came out pretty good.
Just a quick question.
Trustee Donovan.
Does the student-centered focused learning lend itself to that a little more than potentially maybe when Lisa was a teacher? Sorry. I don't know.
President Wagers and Trustee Donovan, a lot of heads are shaking yes. I would agree. When you're talking about a student-centered approach and you're providing each student what they need, where they need it, it really doesn't matter if you're in a combo or you're in a straight 4 or straight 5. We're trying to provide you specifically what you need as a learner when you need it as a learner.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're stuck with me still.
On to the next food service price increase.
President Wagers, Superintendent Roberts, and trustees. I am also here to talk to you a little bit about a proposed price increase for this next school year. This is something that we brought to you last year as well, and many years prior, something that we have to do anytime that we have a cost increase that is over 5%. So as I started off last year, we are not raising the cost of student meal prices for the 25-26 school year, but we are recommending that we increase the price of a second breakfast, adult breakfast, and a la carte milk. And next slide, please. So why? That's the question, right? So adult and guest meals and a la carte meals are not federally reimbursed. They are sold to adults and guests and students who would like an additional meal. Some a la carte items that you would typically see are milk, they're additional pieces of fruit or vegetables. They are an additional entree like a slice of pizza or a hamburger. And then a full meal, second full meal for a student or adult or guest meal. So that's what falls into that a la carte category. And those items, those a la carte items and those adult and guest meals and student second meals fall under the USD regulations that require us to charge the actual cost of providing those meals. So as a result, we have to charge the full price of that meal, including the sales tax. So kind of what I just said, and then as you would imagine, just like it's happening probably in your own homes, the price of food is going up. Whether it is the actual food itself or it's the shipping of the food or whatever is impacting that cost, it's all going up. And so that's why we're here today, is to ask for that increase to offset those increased costs. Here's what we're looking at. As you can see, elementary and secondary student second breakfast is going to move from $2.85 to $3. The adult breakfast meal is going to move also from $2.85 to $3. And then the a la carte milk is moving from 80 cents to 95 cents. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have.
Any questions? Entertain a motion. Trustee Gregory?
I move approval of the food service price increase as outlined in Closure 23.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Trustee Pinion. Moved and seconded to approve the price increase, food service price increase as outlined in Enclosure 23. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you,
Are
President.
you going to leave now?
Wagers. Well,
You're going to come back.
I'm going to stay here. I think we're going to roll right into policy. And I think we might as well just keep going.
Let's just keep going.
We'll cue the next PowerPoint. I am here, President Wagers and Superintendent Roberts and trustees. Tonight, it is also my pleasure to present to you a little bit about the recommended revisions to Policy 3241, which is our personal electronic device policy. As we have tried to do in the past, this is aligned to our strategic plan, Domain 3, Goal 5, Strategy 2, and that is that we provide a, yeah, keep going. You're right. It's long enough as is. So why is the district revising our PED policy? There's a couple reasons that are driving this. One is that there was a law passed by the Idaho legislature this year requiring districts to restrict the use of personal electronic devices. We currently have a PED policy on the books and probably don't need to make a revision necessarily in response to that law. However, what we have found over working with our constituents and parents and principals and teachers is that our policy could be beefed up a little bit. It could be better. We have engaged in a lot of parent and staff feedback, which you're going to see tonight, that has gone into this policy. And then really at the end of the day, our goal is to prioritize student learning and minimize classroom distractions. And that's what we're hearing from teachers, is that personal electronic devices like cell phones are a distraction. A little bit of research around it. Studies do indicate that unrestricted PED use in schools can lead to increased distractions, reduced engagement, higher levels of anxiety, stress, and sleep deprivation, cyberbullying, inappropriate online behavior, and negative effects on social skills and in-person interactions. And I've got a funny story, but for the sake of time, come and see me afterwards and I'll tell you about it. It involves a boy sitting 2 rows away from a girl texting each other. And I said, why don't you go sit by her? And he's like, why would I ever do that? He was my nephew. Our goals really are to support academic success, student well-being, and healthy social interactions. And this kind of goes along with that. The benefits, we do see significant benefits. This past year, we had pilot programs, which we've talked to you about in board meetings before. We piloted building level cell phone policies this past year at each of our junior highs and high schools. They varied from a total ban on cell phones from bell to bell to what many of our high schools were doing, where they were just supposed to be unseen and you're not supposed to be on them during instructional time. You heard from students throughout the year during their presentations to you about the positive impacts that had on their learning environment. We've heard things such as the number of books being checked out at a high school library going up tenfold. We heard about students engaging during break times and playing games and being more engaged in their learning. And that's what we're hoping to really zero in on and focus on and harness that for our entire district. So how did we get here today? We did follow a thoughtful process as we went about this. The first presentation on this actually was around June or July of last year, when we presented to you on the first collection of data from a parent survey around student mental health. If you recall back to that time, we had several questions on that survey that were around cell phone usage and around whether or not cell phones should be allowed in schools. Since that time, we've engaged with parents and staff and students and administration to get to where we are today. We reviewed best practices from other school districts. We reviewed the best practices from the schools that were piloting for us. We considered educational research on PED use in schools. We saw input, like I said, from all of those different groups, parents and guardians, teachers, administrators, and we developed clear guidelines that support student success. So how did the policy revisions affect students at different grade levels? If you look at the draft policy that we're presenting to you today, it is broken down by grade bands. So at the elementary level, you'll see that devices must be turned off and stored during school hours. At the junior high level, you'll see that devices must be turned off and kept in their lockers during the school day. At the high school level, you'll see that devices may be used before and after school, during lunch and passing periods, but must be silent and stored away during class time. This was very intentional. One of the focuses that we had is that we wanted to have guidelines that ensured our younger students were staying more focused, while gradually giving our older students that opportunity to learn responsibility. The other thing that to keep into consideration as we talk about our high school students is we have open campuses. It's a little tough to police lunchtime when they're going to Dairy Queen, right? Some additional aspects of the revised policy that you will see are that we do have an exemption in there for smartwatches, which I know you received, I believe, 64 online public comments regarding smartwatches, the smartwatch exemption. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that in a different slide here. We also have additional expectations for responsible use of PEDs. It's one thing to just ban electronics, cell phones, smartwatches, but I think it's more important for us as an educational institution to help students learn how to utilize them properly so that they're ready when they move out into society. So there's a section on that. There's also a graduated approach to intervention in the policy, and then exceptions and accommodations for students who are on 504s and IEPs. As I kind of indicated in a previous slide, we did do a significant amount of outreach, and we've done quite a bit of communication with parents on the back end. So this past week, we sent out the results of the parent survey, staff, parent and guardian surveys with an infographic that kind of that went over the survey results. We also have sent out the draft policy. We also sent out an FAQ document that answered a lot of the frequently asked questions that we were getting from parents as we went through this process. So that communication has been taking place. The rest of this presentation, I'm really going to focus on the survey results from our most recent staff and parent and guardian surveys. So when we look at the survey results that have led to this point, we had exactly, not approximately, 2,047 parent responses and 834 staff responses. And you can see how those broke out on the slide. Maybe? Is it going? There we go. One of the first questions we asked are, how supportive are you of the draft PED policy? As you can see, 85.9% of parents and 92.6% of staff were supportive of our draft policy. That's pretty significant response. Next slide. We then asked parents about each of those grade bands. Did they agree with that? So how do you feel the draft PED guidelines for elementary students? If those are appropriate, you can see 89.6% of parents and 96.3% of staff said the guidelines for elementary were appropriate. Same question for junior highs, grades 7 through 9. You can see 79% of parents and 91.7% of staff said the guidelines for junior high were appropriate.
I don't know, do you want questions along the way or?
Sure, why not?
Were they given an opportunity to explain their no or?
President Wagers and Trustee Gregory, yes. So each one of these questions had a comment question following it. So if you did answer no or yes, you got to have an opportunity to explain why. And we did utilize AI to take those responses and summarize them. And I'm going to share a little bit about the high level common themes. The next question was around high schools, so grades 10 through 12. As you can see, 70.5% of parents and 76.4% of staff said the guidelines for high school students were appropriate. And then one of the questions that we had was specific around smartwatches, and we asked, do you agree with how we are handling smartwatches, that they can be worn, but they have to be in do not disturb or silent mode? You can see that 74.7% of respondents that were parents or guardians said yes, that they thought that that was a good approach. 71.3% of staff felt like that was a good approach. Again, there were comments on all of these questions. And when you look at the common themes and questions from the survey, they really fell into a few major categories. There was concerns about parents being able to communicate with their child during the school day. That was a common theme, like, hey, my kid, I need to be able to let them know if practice is canceled. I need to let them know who's picking them up. I need to let them know, whatever it might be throughout the day. There was also concerns about parents being able to communicate with their child during school emergencies. And this is something that we heard a lot, even clear back last year around this time when we started having this discussion. And then you heard that when we had our SRO captain come and present to us on safety and security this last fall. And so that's something that was a theme throughout. We also had questions regarding how and if medical exemptions would be available to students who use their smartphone for monitoring of medical conditions, whether it's diabetes or some other kind of condition. We do have students who utilize their smartphone for monitoring that medical condition. There were also a lot of questions and comments around smart watches. And I think in the case of the smartwatches, what was very interesting is you do have folks on both sides of that conversation. As you can see, if you go back to the slide on smartwatches, a significant number of folks supported the approach. But there were comments around, like I said, on both sides of that conversation. You have folks who say they are absolutely a huge distraction. They're as much or more of a distraction than a cell phone. You also have those folks that think that the smartwatch is the best way for somebody to be accommodated for the use of that technology for monitoring a need or for parents being able to keep track of their child or whatever it might be. And so that's something that we'll talk a little bit more about here in just a second. So what if my child needs to contact me during the school day? So one of the things that we've talked about and we put in the FAQ document is that we have a process as a school district for that, right? And we utilized it broadly before smartphones and kids had cell phones in general. And it's contact the office. Give the message to the admin assistant or whomever is answering the phone. We have a system for getting that message to the student. And that's something that those of us that have kids that don't have smartphones, that's the system we utilize and it works effectively. So far, my kid hasn't ended up on the wrong side of town yet, and we utilize that system. Next slide, please. The other one, and this is a really important one. What if my child needs to contact me during a school emergency? And we certainly understand a parent's desire to have that contact with their child during school emergencies. But if you think back to earlier this fall when Captain Quackenbush was presenting, he talked a little bit about some of the challenges and complications that students and parents utilizing smartphones to communicate during an emergency situation and how that presents challenges for SROs. And we've highlighted a few of the items there from that conversation when we were having it in the fall, and we've utilized this in our FAQ documents. But a couple of the things that were highlighted: students using cell phones during a crisis may be distracted from following important safety instructions from teachers or law enforcement, which could put them at greater risk. In school emergency, a large number of students and parents using their phones to make calls or send messages can overwhelm local cellular networks, making it harder for first responders and emergency personnel to communicate. And students may share rumors or incorrect information on social media or through text, leading to confusion and panic both inside and outside of the school. And this can complicate the response from emergency first responders. And so we do not want to make light of a parent's desire to be in communication with their children during an emergency situation, but I think the guidance from our SROs is solid guidance. And I think this is what we will continue to communicate and share with families. If we move forward with this policy revision, we will work to help families understand that the cell phones put us in a difficult situation during these emergency situations. The exceptions for medical and educational needs is also something that we have been discussing with families ever since we did that first survey. When that first survey came out, we had a number of parents who reached out to us that were really concerned about their students not having access to their cell phone for monitoring whatever medical condition they have. I do believe one of the most common is blood sugar. And so we've had a lot of conversations with them that whatever we adopt, and if we adopt, we would have the ability to accommodate students who are on IEPs or 504s. So whether it's an educational need for that device or it is a medical need for that device, we have processes in place as a district to make accommodations for that student so they can have access to that device for those purposes. This actually went really well in our pilot schools this year. We had a number of students who had accommodations, regardless of which school they were in, where they were able to utilize that device. And in talking to principals, there were no issues with implementing this for 504s this year for the ones I've talked to. So how will the district support students and families if the policy revision is adopted? So there's a number of things, and I've alluded to several of these, but one of the things that is going to be really important is clear communication. It's making sure that students and parents and staff all understand the expectations if we do make this adoption. We also will continue to work with our counselors and our educational professionals to help offer guidance on healthy digital habits and responsible technology use. One of the things I mentioned earlier in the presentation is that it isn't just about prohibiting students from utilizing technology in our schools. It's also about helping them to develop healthy habits that will stay with them as they progress through life. We'll also work to ensure access to alternative resources such as school-issued devices. There was lots of conversation throughout this past year about, well, kids use their cell phone for this assignment or this assignment. That's great, but in talking to our technology experts in the district, pretty much all of that can be done on the devices that the district has. We just have to make sure that students have that access to them. If it can't be done on a Chromebook, we'll get them the device that they do need to do that assignment. And then outline exceptions and accommodations. We will make sure that our teams, our interdisciplinary teams at our schools know what they can do when it comes to putting together IEPs and 504 accommodations for students that have educational or medical needs. And then we'll explain why using PEDs during emergency is not advisable. That's something that I think we're going to continue to have to educate parents and students on, because that's one of the number one concerns when you look through all of the survey data. And then establish clear protocols for parents to communicate with their child. As I said, we have a long tried and true system for parents to get a message to their kids during the school day, and just reminding folks that we have that system. It's become too easy just to simply text or call your kid when we can also just send that message through the office. And with that, I would be happy to stand for any questions. I know there are some questions around the smartwatches, so maybe we start there.
Trustee Donovan?
Did any of the secondary pilot schools include a smartwatch impact?
Yeah. President Wagers and Trustee Donovan, we did not. So when our schools set out on on piloting their building level policies, they really focused all around cell phones, earbuds, and like MP3 type players. Really was what they were zeroed in on. And I actually reviewed all of our building level policies just the other day to confirm that. And nobody had a smartwatch. Nobody was prohibiting the use of smartwatches, and nobody was targeting that. So there really is no data for us as a district to look back on to say, yeah, smartwatches were a problem here or not a problem here. What we do have is, and I'm going to take you on a little bit of a little journey here. The initial draft proposal that we were bringing forward to the governance committee did not have an exception for smartwatches. Smartwatches were rolled in with the other personal electronic devices. We surveyed our building principals on that. That was our first survey that we did on the draft policy. And what we heard from building principals is they were concerned about trying to police smartwatches. While they felt like they had got a good grasp of how to police cell phones and that it wasn't a huge burden this past year with what they had done in their individual pilots, they were concerned that trying to tell kids that they couldn't wear a smartwatch was going to be a battle that they didn't have the capacity to fight. The other part of that is that we had elementary principals that were really concerned about fighting that fight with parents, because the smartwatch is the parents' way of knowing that their student got to school on time or left the house at all, right? Because they're tracking devices, many of them. And so the parent utilizes that to know when the child left the house, when the child gets to school, when the child gets back home after school. And so principals were concerned about fighting that fight with parents, and that it was a loser. And so after that feedback from principals, we put the exception for smartwatches into the policy. And then, as you saw with the data, then we surveyed parents, guardians, and staff on that. As I mentioned, I believe you guys got 64 responses, public comments around smartwatches tonight. And they raise great points. And I think those are points that we're going to have to look at and wrangle with as a governance committee. We're going to have to weigh the response from the survey and the response from the public comment and figure out where we want to fall with smartwatches.
Well, but like the student advisory, I never heard any negative feedback about the smartwatch being a distraction. Did students or did principals say, gosh, if we could have eliminated them, we would? Did anybody have negative
President Wagers and Trustee Donovan, I have not personally received any information like that, or especially around secondary students where we did our pilots. With the elementary, if you talk to teachers and you talk to principals, they are certainly a distraction, and there are conversations that teachers and principals are having with those students on a regular basis about your smartwatch needs to be in do not disturb mode or silence. So that is happening, especially at the elementary level. I do hear those comments. But again, I believe when you talk to principals, they are willing to have those conversations and work with students on how to utilize that smartwatch properly. That's an easier battle to fight than the parent who wants their kid to have that smartwatch on because it's their way of tracking to make sure their kid is safely at school and safely getting home. And that's the balance that's the needle we're trying to thread. And so that's what the governance committee is going to have to tackle when we take this back to them prior to the second reading.
Trustee Benyon.
Thank you, President Wagers. First of all, a heavy lift on this, so appreciate everybody's work around it. There aren't too many policy adoption, I think, where you have this level of concurrence at this point. So I think that shows we're on the right path. I assume, similarly to how we spent this past year reviewing the previous policy we had in place, we will do similarly for this and can reassess, especially the smartwatch issue, depending on how we end up going with it, right?
Yeah, President Wagers and Trustee Benyon, I think that's exactly what our intent would be. When we adopt, if we adopt this policy, I think depending on where we fall with some of these policies, the smartwatch isn't the only area where we probably want to continue to follow up with some survey data. There's questions around how we're approaching the disciplinary aspect or the intervention aspect. We had kind of a 50-50 split in administrators when it came from, hey, we want hard and fast, like disciplinary requirements in the policy. And then we had those principals, about 50%, that were like, nope, please don't. Give me a framework. I need to be able to handle each individual circumstance commensurate with the issue. And so we have gone with a framework for the intervention on this, but that's a question I think that is needing to be explored further with after the adoption. How did it go in the first year? Because that's something that we also saw from teachers in their survey responses and parents. Some parents wanted a very specific, like, I want to know exactly what happens on the first occurrence. Well, we didn't structure it that way, right? And we did that on purpose because some principals are saying, hey, I want the parent to have to come and pick that cell phone up. If the kid loses it for the third straight time in 1 week, I want the parent to come get it because we're going to have a conversation. Whereas some principals are like, I will have a collection of 300 cell phones in a month and no parent's going to come and pick them up. So there's going to be this really, this delicate balance there. And I think that's another area that'll be important to survey. The smartwatches, depending on where we go, either direction, I think that would be one that would be worthy of follow-up surveying to see how that is progressing as well. I think there's also potential for surveying just in general. How is it going at the elementary level? Are the guidelines for elementary appropriate? Is that working for us? Is it appropriate at the junior high? Again, remember, we're trying to have them developmentally appropriate. Did we hit the right chord?
Trustee Hassler.
Can you tell us a little bit about what other districts are doing around this?
Yeah, President Wagers and Trustee Hassler. So a number of districts in the state have adopted policies this year. Many of them have not gone through the long, thoughtful process that we have gone through. Many of them just did it. Some of them already had them. They had robust cell phone policies. One of the first districts in the state to really tackle this was the Blaine County School District, which we have utilized their expertise and their experiences a lot, which is why we went through the thoughtful process we did. We reached out to, I visited with their deputy superintendent about their process and learned a lot from their experience and how they went about it. And so that's something that has been valuable to us. When you look in the Treasure Valley here, a lot of our neighboring districts adopted policies towards the beginning of this school year. Those range from all-out bans, K-12, to very similar to what we're adopting today, or looking at adopting here, with smartwatch exemptions and everything. West Ada has, for example, pretty similar to what we're looking at, with a exemption for smartwatches. You can wear smartwatches. So you have this spectrum, if you will, around the state. And now that this state law has passed, all districts are going to have to tackle this if they haven't already tackled it.
Ask a follow-up.
Go ahead, Trustee Hassler.
Well, first I'd like to make a comment. Thank you for all the work. It's amazing for us to be able to have this kind of data in front of us of what our community is asking us to do and what they feel will best meet the needs of their students in their classroom and in their homes. So thank you for that. And to our 2,800, I think it's a little bit more than that, but our responders, I just can't say thank you enough to our community for getting us information about what they would like to see us do around this policy, because everybody has a different opinion on it. You know, I mean, I think sitting up here, we could all speak to why we have different opinions and why we see different lenses. And it's important that what we put forward for our school district represents our school district. And there's a lot of various opinions on this. And thank you to the 64 parents who took time to email into us and get us their concerns. One of my questions is, there's language that we put into the policy, that the governance committee put into the policy, that's smartwatches will not be, they'll be in do not disturb during instructional time. Can you speak to why that language is specifically there and help us understand that a little? There were some questions around that.
Yeah, President Wagers and Trustee Hassler. So our intent with the draft policy was to allow individuals to wear those smartwatches because they really are more than just a personal electronic device. They're also a watch. And like we talked about, with many families wanting to be able to use that as a tracking mechanism for their child getting from home to school, back home in the afternoon. The intent of the language of the do not disturb or the silence, however you want to phrase it, educational mode, some of them have what's called an educational mode, is to ensure that the student isn't getting text messages and getting buzzed for notifications throughout the day while they're supposed to be concentrating on their work. So that was the intent, is to kind of thread that needle, as I said earlier, between allowing them to wear the watch and have that, but also try to limit the distractions and the disruptions. If the watch is a distraction and disruption, if the kid is getting text messages and stopping and looking at it, that's going to be treated no different than any other electronic device at that point. They would probably be taken by the teacher, given to the administration, and we would implement the intervention at that point.
All right. So this first reading only on this, so it will go back for a little discussion of governance, and then back to us next board meeting for second reading and possible adoption or not.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for bearing with me tonight.
Thank you, Deputy Director Smith. And
Hi.
Director Anderson.
Good evening. So as we just referenced, we have two policies up for first read. So we just discussed at length policy 3241, and then we have another one up for first read that's just the first sentence of it has changed a bit, and that's 3234. So I'll stand for any questions on those.
Trustee Benyon.
No question, just a comment. Appreciate the cross references at the bottom.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we're good on that one.
Okay, and then we have two policies up for second read tonight, and this is the policy 3211 that we split into policy 3211 and 3211R.
So any questions on those policies? No? Then I would entertain a motion. Trustee Gregory? Is there a second?
Second.
Second from trustee Hassler. Any discussion from trustees on these policies and procedure? Policy and procedure.
President Wagers.
Trustee Gregory.
I just think this is an example of just good work by the committee and just an opportunity to clarify and separate the policy from the regulations. Just it will serve us well.
Thank you. And I did want to make a mention that all the policies in the 3000s are reviewed every single year. So.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. It's been moved and seconded to approve policy 3211, civil rights grievance, and regulation 3211 R1, civil rights grievance is outlined in closures 26 and 27, effective July 1st. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those policies will go into effect July 1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your work and governance work and community work. Takes a village. Next, we'll move into executive session, I believe. Trustee Gregory.
Thank you, President Wagers. In accordance with Idaho Code Section 74-206-1BF, I move to recess the open meeting and convene into an executive session for the purpose of discussing an issue covered under this section of code. Following discussion, the board will reconvene in an open session to take board action on matters discussed in the closed meeting and/or adjourn this meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Trustee Benyon. Clerk Snyder, will you do a roll call vote?
Trustee Wagers,
Aye.
Trustee Gregory,
Aye.
Trustee Benyon,
Aye.
Trustee Donovan,
Aye.
Trustee Hassler.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We'll now move into executive session. We'll reconvene when we're done.
The board is currently in executive session and will return shortly.
Move that the board reconvene into open session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded that we convene in open to session. Open to session. All in favor, say aye.
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 Back in open session. Believe we need some motions from executive session. Trustee Gregory.
President Wagers, I move that we place employee A discussed in executive session on paid administrative leave pending an investigation.
Been moved. Do we place employee A? Is there a second?
Second.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. We place employee A on paid administrative leave pending an investigation. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Trustee Gregory.
President Wagers, I move that we place, I move to place employee B on paid administrative leave pending an investigation.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We place employee B on paid administrative leave pending an investigation. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we're going to move to board superintendent comments. Superintendent Roberts.
Been waiting all night to talk about this. Huge kudos to Director Anderson and the governance committee for tackling a little bit of concerns about students being able to kind of show their pride in different things they've been involved in throughout school via their graduation attire. And so the decision was made to that organizations or groups that were in all of our schools could apply for a cord, and then they would be given a color of cord and they would wear that at graduation. So I have a cheat sheet for all of you here about the cords. So for example, this is an example of this purple cord. This is the fine arts cord. And this cord right here, this cream color cord would signify student council. So the red, white, and blue is a really pretty braided cord. It's ROTC. So I don't expect any of you to memorize them, but I thought you might be curious when those students walk across the stage. I know at the green team celebration that we had a couple weeks ago, they received a beautiful green cord, a light green cord. So, and it doesn't mean that this is all the cords we'll ever have. And, other groups could every year, it's by, I think, July 31st, they have to apply for the next year for to have a cord. But I really kudos to all of you. And then to Director Anderson for getting that going. I'm excited to see them as they come across the stage. Also, I wanted to let you know that 176 parents have applied for the parent advocacy group. I know, and a really good distribution between every single quadrant. So now we're tasked with choosing 16 of those and 2 at large, so 18 parents from that. So 2 elementary, a junior high, and a high school from every quad. And my goal then will be to meet with each person chosen individually over the summer, and then we will start our meetings in the fall. But I was really impressed that 176 parents reached out wanting to be that involved. So looking forward to this, excited about it, and can't wait to meet them.
That's great. Any other? Trustee Hassler?
My daughter came home talking about the cords and actually told me last night all of the students were so excited about this opportunity to showcase what they're involved in and this sense of belonging they have in our schools and how they can share at graduation what they've been involved in the high school. So thank you for making that happen, and to Director Anderson for those efforts.
Great. So graduation season is among us, and here we go. So buckle up and hold on, and then we'll finish that up with a workshop on the 22nd. Anything else? Last day of school.
And we won't get out at 3:50 or 2:50.
All right. Trustee Gregory.
President Wagers, I move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.